argue about how we got here. We're all responsible. It's a catastrophic mess.
The risk managers lost control.
Goldman and Morgan Stanley are going down now.
The nightmare scenario is already here. We're in it.
You can't just hand the banks piles of cash.
And what do I say when they ask me why it wasn't regulated?
Main Street wants Wall Street to pay. 35,000 jobs just disappeared in this city.
Gotta start stacking sandbags. I just lost $90 million.
Okay, so we're talking about an HBO movie, Too Big to Fail. It is sort of a greeting card from those who did it to us, telling us that they were really heroes. The only villainous character, and even a mild villain, by the is Dick Fuld, played by James Woods. And Dick Fuld, as played by James Woods is a known conservative. He played the only villain. Everyone else was a hero. Everybody else, as portrayed in this movie, whether it be William Hurt playing Hank Paulson, or Paul Giamatti playing Ben Bernanke, or Billy Crudup playing Timothy Geithner, or Ed Asner playing Warren Buffett, portrays a hero who saved us from the next depression. I don't believe it. I actually believe that we're going into another depression, specifically because those who caused the last one are still there. And if they're not in active power, they're behind the scenes, still controlling the scene, using puppets like Geithner to do their bidding, and Bernanke to do their bidding. Nothing has changed. In fact, the bonuses are still the same, the salaries are still the same characters are still there, and there's been no investigation or indictment of those who did it to us. Now, if I were alone in this, you could say that I'm wrong. That's number one. But it's funny how both left and right agree with me on this. That's number one. But before we go down this road to any greater extent, and I'm going to cover this in such detail today, you're not going to believe it. You're going to hear things you've never heard or read before, I can guarantee it. I may not even take a single call. Call if you want. But I'm telling you, you're going to learn things you never knew about today, about the economic collapse. And remember, 280 points down today. I hope it goes up tomorrow. But when you have an economy being manipulated like this by short sellers, and you have it manipulated by a Bernanke who artificially keeps interest rates at near zero, you have a recipe for a real Great Depression. We're also going to talk about some loan sharks who busted out a bank, made $2.5 billion on their own, sold it to another bank, and then ran off with the money and funded, you ready for this? Acorn. They funded the group Acorn, MoveOn.org, Media Matters, ProPublica. They've given them tens of millions of dollars. They're the single largest donor to the ACLU with, in my opinion, their ill-gotten gains. And you never heard of them. Why would these billionaires, Herbert and Marion Sandler, not be known? And why would Herbert and Marion Sandler spend all this money, assuming they're so rich, which obviously they are? They sold their bank, which was filled with toxic mortgages, to another bank just before the collapse. They sold it for $25 billion, even though the bank was loaded with toxic mortgages. The bank they sold it to nearly went bankrupt because obviously there was nothing that they bought, basically a pig in the poke, a dying pig, and they thought it was a healthy pig. The fact of the matter is, what did they do with their money? Did they fund conservative causes? No. All their causes are extreme leftist groups like Acorn, MoveOn.org, Media Matters, and ProPublica. Now, why would billionaires support the left? This is a question that many of you have asked and shaken your head over and you don't know. You can come up with the comedic answer that liberalism is a mental disorder, but unfortunately in this case, when it comes to finances, that doesn't apply. These are some of the smartest people on earth, and let's not forget that some of these people we're talking about today are much smarter than us. They always were smarter in school. They knew how to learn faster. They went to better schools than you or I did. I'm very proud of my education, but I wasn't as smart as some of these financial guys, and I'll admit it. But before we go down this road, I want to remind you of something. I am not a poor man. I may sound like I'm a guy in the street with nothing, but I'm a wealthy man. I have worked for, how old am I? I've worked for over 55 years. I've worked since I'm 6 years old. I've saved a lot of my money. I invested a lot of my money wisely. I've never stolen a dime from anybody, ever. Every dime I've made, I've earned. Every single dime I've made, I've earned. Now, having said that, I still carry myself as though I am a worker. I began as a social worker, then I was a teacher. I struggled as a grad student. I struggled for 20 years because I couldn't get the position I wanted because I was a white male, and the society said white males need not apply. And instead of going into the banking industry or the insurance industry because I knew nothing about it, and I wasn't mathematically inclined, and I was always a do-gooder, really, I wanted to do something good for the world, somehow I stumbled into radio after many, many years, and here I am 16, 17 years later, and I'm not telling you that I'm doing badly. I don't want to deceive you. So I'm in a hybrid position in American society. I have outrage against thievery, to be very frank with you. To me, these guys are no different than the mafia. And in watching Too Big to Fail, I thought that I was watching The Godfather. But instead of going to the school of Little Italy, these guys went to Harvard, Princeton, and Yale. Instead of slurping spaghetti, they were eating oatmeal in the morning. Instead of downing a little cappuccino or an espresso, they were drinking bottled water, but it was the same exact mentality of robbing and cheating and obfuscating their theft. And on top of it all, owning the government and owning the media, just as in The Godfather, to protect them from prosecution. But it gets even uglier.